Hello guys, Nathan here, and we are finally on the day where we can finally check out Company of Heroes 3. I've been looking forward to this for, well, since they announced the game. I play Company of Heroes pretty much every single day. I've almost, 2,000 hours on Company of Heroes 2. Majority of that has been within the past year and a half when I started actually playing the game properly, and I absolutely love the series. But today we're going to be first taking a look at the settings and what the best settings and hotkeys I would say you should consider. I'm not going to say like you have to, but definitely consider. These are my best. These are what I feel like that are the best hotkeys are. And settings. So let's go into settings now. So the first thing you should do is go into gameplay and take a look at these options. I'd highly recommend removing event queues. So this is if you did play the multiplayer test, essentially there's a big event queue that pops in the top left, and if you do not turn this off, basically you can't do any actions. It completely blocks off any actions in that top left corner. So remove this. It is not worth having it on. Another thing you might consider is changing to unique player colors. However, in the multiplayer tests, this had a weird instance where your teammate would be red occasionally. And while that in itself isn't bad, but when you add the fact that your opponent's objectives are red, it just basically turns into who has capped this and are these enemies, are these enemy units or friendlies? That's essentially what I'm trying to say. So I'd keep team based on unless you really want to do unique, but I highly recommend team based until they hopefully change unique so that the teammates aren't red. Another thing that would be situational, but I definitely think at the bottom left would be the ideal, is the global unit control position. So if you're used to Company of Heroes 2, you would probably want top right. The top right means that the unit icons are on the top right, like how Code 2 was. But I do think the bottom left is the most appropriate spot, because you kind of want all the UI to be around the same area anyway. So if you can get through the transitional phase of getting used to the icons, the control group icons being near the minimap, I definitely recommend the bottom left. The bottom left is much superior to the top right. All the XP kickers I'd keep on. You want to know whether you've killed something, and XP tickers helps it a lot. Same as armor penetration kickers, all of them. This is pretty much all fine, apart from event queues and global unit control position and player colors, which is definitely preference, but the better option is the bottom left. Now I would go to graphics options and lower the brightness down to about 40%, maybe 35%. This game still has a little bit problems of oversaturation, and I really think lowering the brightness down to about 10% and /15%, it's really preference, but around that really helps lower that saturation. Alright, so we're on the hotkeys now. So I have my own profile, so if we click noob, we see that I have my profile already, but I'm going to go down back to the default so that I can go through them all with you guys. So the first thing that we want to do is definitely have tactical map to our middle mouse button, not middle mouse button, but one of our mouse buttons. We'll just call this Nav for now. Nav vid. We'll just call it that for now. But yeah, I've got this on my mouse for. This is one of my mouse buttons, so I can just click it on and off without even moving my finger, because my thumb's already there. If you don't use TapMap, of course, this is really irrelevant to you. However, tactical map really does help with overall situational awareness. If you are prone to getting tunnel vision on one area, just trying to learn tactical map can really help overall keep your awareness over the greater picture. Turning the tap map on lets you see all your units, whether they're engaged, they're not capping, one's AFK, you know, all that. Definitely recommend it. You don't have to get better at the game, but it's a really useful tool that helps you a lot to get better. I honestly, I was very stubborn about using this when I first got into Code 2. But now, like, I started using it. I still am not a fan of it, if I'm completely honest. Just turning it on and off, it's just annoying. However, it's still one of the most useful tools in your arsenal. The next things we're going to go down to is, let's go to control groups. So control groups are one of the most important things as well. So if you don't know what control groups are the things where you can group together units. So let's say control group one, select one. If you control one on 2 units, they become control group 1. If you select another one and control 2, that's control group 2. This allows for you to organize your troops a lot better. So my rundown of keybinds is this. When I first started playing, all my units get their own control group. So if I'm saying, like, let's go with Cubdeers 2, all my infantry will be 1 to 3. Maybe 4 if I'm going 4 infantry. That's the same with Companies 4 at 3. Of course, builds haven't really been built just yet, but you're generally going to do the same. Whatever your first starting 4 units, 5 units are, you're going to bind them all together. Typically 5 is reserved for my engineer unit because I'm not selecting him that much early on. So he's just my capping unit typically. So I'll put him on 5, then 1, 2, 3 and 4 are my infantry. Then after we get MGs, 3 and 4 are my MGs. If I've got 3 infantry and 1 MG, 4 is my MG and 1 to 3 is my infantry. And if I get a second MG, 3 becomes my MG. 3 and 4 becomes my MG. You want to always have your MGs binded because it really allows for you to not forget about them. At least for me, if you are very more active with your MGs, you don't have to bind them, but I highly recommend doing it because it allows for you to constantly have access to your MGs when you need them. The same goes for AT guns. So AT guns are going to be your 1 and 2, at least if you're doing my control bindings, which I really think are one of the most effective ones. But yeah, you're going to want AT guns 1 and 2. 1 and 2 are the easiest ones to get to for your control groups. So you always want to have your AT guns binded because you're always going to want them when, like, really fast. When you see a tank, you want that instantly locked in, or selected rather. So 1 and 2 your AT guns, 3 and 4 your MGs, 5 your engineer. So we get on to 6, 7, 8 and 9. 6, 7, 8 and 9 are not all optimal to use. You can't really select them very easily. You have to stretch your fingers out to select 6, 7, 8 and 9. So what I do is this. I make my select F1. I make 7 F2, 8 F3 and select 9 F4. What this allows for me to do is, yes, I can control bind them to 6, 7, 8 and 9. However, I can keep selecting them via F1, F2, F3 and F4. I just have to click F1, F2, F3 or F4 to select them. That still registers as control 6, 7, 8 and 9. This is what I did in Code 2, and this is what I highly, highly recommend for anyone to do. This allows for you to have access to all and every single control group, apart from 0, I suppose, but you're not going to need them all. F1, F2, F3, F4 are all your tanks. So you have your infantry gun support guns, your infantry on 1 to 5, and your tanks and light vehicles and anything of that sort on F1, F2, F3, F4. This allows for you to always have access to every type of unit you need. And it doesn't mean, and you won't misclick or anything because they're not together. So honestly, this really helped me learn to micro my tanks better because it just allowed me to constantly just have access to them. So yeah, I definitely recommend changing this. If you do this, you're going to want to go down to control group focus. down to focus 6, 7, 8, and 9, and then you're going to want to go F1 twice, F2 twice, F3 twice, and F4 twice. This allows for you to, when you click F1, F2, F3, F4 twice, it will focus on that unit. So if you need to flick to a unit, you can do the same. It's the same here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you click it twice, it will focus on that group selection. But yeah, generally speaking, that's really it. You do have your battle group selection here. You could bind. So if you click Control F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, etc, etc, this will allow you to use your battle group abilities. So essentially, if you go for a battle group with a strafe, you can click Control F1 to select that. You can definitely change this to something you want. I'm leaning towards yes, you should, because I actually don't like where the battle groups icons are. They're on the right side. And honestly, yeah, I just don't like where. I think it should have been moved close to the center of the screen, because I like all my UI basically all in one area, because I don't like looking too far away from the center of my screen, because that's where all my units are. But honestly, these actually aren't that bad either, because all you have to do is click Control F1, F2. Like, all of that is literally all at your fingertips. So I think that's perfectly fine. So, honestly, that is all I'd change in this. I actually think Relic has done a fairly good job with, you know, getting the more optimal choices with the keybinds. So I believe I don't use old classic keys, and you don't have the option there, but I believe you can overall change it to a grid format by using this system. Basically, if you click a button, right, so let's say this is R, this is a retreat, you choose the classic hotkey button for it. I don't know it, I don't use classic hotkeys, so I actually can't help you with that. But if you want to translate it to classic hotkeys, then you would do that. So R would be whatever with you, I think maybe is the reverse / retreat button, and so on and so forth. I think that's how you would do it. I do highly recommend learning grid keys because they're the most efficient way of playing. Of course, if you're used to classic hotkeys, for those who don't know what classic hotkeys are, they're basically spread out everywhere. They're kind of like the old AoE, Age of Empires and such like bindings. Whereas grid keys literally are all these: Q, W, E, R, A, S, D, F, Z, X, C, V. They keep everything all in one nice tight area. You don't need to use one hand, and you don't need to stretch out. So yes, learn grid keys if you really want to improve on the game. It's the best way of playing. But of course, if you are used to classic hotkeys and you want classic hotkeys, you just have to rebind them via this. But yeah, honestly, like I said, that is it for this video. A lot of the keybinds are honestly already there. You just need to do a little finicking about, and you get the most optimal hotkeys that at least that I feel like. You are probably gonna rebind things to your preference, but feel free to use this as a template to get you started. And that is all I have to say about the game settings. Honestly, there wasn't too much change in the game settings side. Definitely quite a bit to change in the hotkey side. But if you did enjoy the video, then do be sure to subscribe. And honestly, tell me down below. Comment down below if you are planning on playing this game on launch tomorrow. I think when this video comes out, it's probably tomorrow. But yeah, other than that, I shall see you again next time. Goodbye.